Hi, and welcome to the Harvest of the Month 101 with Mass Farm to School. My name is Dinah Mack, and I'm the Education Program Manager at Massachusetts Farm to School. And I am with two fabulous people who are going to share their experience with Harvest of the Month, and I'll introduce them momentarily. But first, I'm going to just give you an overview of the Harvest of the Month program and how your school can get involved with our program. But before I do, I'll tell you that Massachusetts Farm to School is an organization that works to strengthen local farms and fisheries and promote healthy communities by increasing local food purchasing and education at schools. You can get involved with Mass Farm to School through professional learning opportunities, networking, policy and advocacy work, communications. You can subscribe to our newsletter and stay up to date on upcoming webinars and other professional learning opportunities. And Harvest of the Month is our focus today. What is Harvest of the Month? So the goal of Harvest of the Month is to encourage healthy food choices by increasing students' exposure to seasonal foods while also supporting local farmers, building excitement about school meals, and providing learning opportunities for students. The Harvest of the Month program works to unite the classroom, cafeteria, and community. It's a great opportunity to celebrate local abundance, experiment with new food and recipes, broaden the curriculum to include food systems and agricultural education, and get some positive recognition for your school. If you sign up for for Harvest of the Month, what you can expect is that Massachusetts Farm to School will support you by providing any technical assistance you need for sourcing Harvest of the Month foods from local farms. We have posters, trading cards, stickers for each featured food that you can display and distribute in your participating school. We have downloadable promotional and educational material for your use, and it's all free, including press release templates, Harvest of the Month newsletters and recipes. And we provide resources for curriculum and at-home activities. And the curriculum is associated with all the crops, home-scaled recipes, nutrition information, arts and crafts, taste testing, and more. And if you sign up, you're basically saying that your school will locally source and menu featured Harvest of the Month food at least twice per month in all participating cafeterias, utilize the promotional material, including our beautiful Harvest of the Month posters, trading cards, and I Tried It stickers each month. Share your experience with Mass Farm to School and our community. And for K to 12 and preschools, identify and provide contact information for a district Harvest of the Month team and connect with others in your school community about Harvest of the Month opportunities at home in the classroom. These are some examples of some of the material. Cafeterias have access to menu templates, and posters, trading cards, and stickers. Classrooms also can get posters, trading cards, and stickers as well to hang up in the hall or in the class. We have different newsletters that go out. We have a Harvest of the Month at Home newsletter that goes out with recipes and information. We have a family newsletter. We have also have a newsletter that goes to cafeterias, and that has information about the crop and ways to engage students who are eating in the cafeteria. And we also have a new program, which is an educator e-blast. So if you know of any educators who would be interested in this, we have a monthly newsletter that goes home via email. Goes to the classroom via email. And it basically gives a history of the crop, announcements and opportunities for Mass Farm to School. We have a really excellent book recommendation list for elementary, middle, and high school. We have recipe suggestions, some really bad crop jokes, and some excellent curriculum lessons. And so that gets sent monthly. Some new things that are going on in our Harvest of the Month program with Mass Farm to School is we've expanded our Harvest of the Month program to give you more flexibility, resources, and options. We have new crops. So in addition to the existing crops, we've added cranberries, corn, dried beans, collard greens, cabbage, herbs, and salad greens. We have a new and improved selection of K-6 lessons with activity extensions, crop history, reading suggestions, and we have a Meet the Farmer section where we have bios of farms across the state. We have an interactive map to support student learning about the geography and history of the foods that we eat and celebrate. And we have the family newsletter that is translated into 5 additional languages besides English. And we are rolling out a secondary educator classroom curriculum starting in September. So we currently, our curriculum is currently focused on elementary students, but we're going to be rolling out a grade 7 to 12 curriculum. So stay tuned for that. We're very excited. To officially join the Harvest of the Month program and be listed as a participant on our website, either a school food service department makes a commitment to utilize the Harvest of the Month materials, agreeing to source locally, serve and promote the featured foods, or a classroom educator signs up for our educator program and agrees to incorporate the material into their classroom curriculum. Anyone may use our free lesson plans and other resources associated with the program, even if your food service department isn't ready to participate. So if you're a teacher or other school staff member and you want help getting your food service department involved, we have, you can contact us. On our website, we have profiles of 12 districts that are participating in Harvest of the Month. And I'm not going to share this right now because we have Marianne Honig and Ellen Nyland, who are going to share their own experience with Harvest of the Month and give you some actual really great lessons and ideas that they've done. If you have any questions or need support, please reach out to us and I'll put the email in the chat. And I'm going to pass the screen share to our speakers, Marianne and Ellen. We're going to share.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Everybody can see that? Yep. Okay. So as Dinah had mentioned, my name's Marianne Honig, and I'm actually a Bartlett High School business teacher. And Ellen and I partnered up about 4.5 years ago. And it was interesting because the cafeteria was serving local food, but none of the students knew about it. And so Ellen had said to me, Marianne, how can we let the students know that we are getting local produce and we're serving it to them? And so I brought it back to my Marketing 2 students, who are an absolutely unbelievable group of students. So this was the original group of farm to school students. This young man just graduated, Connor Brennan. He just graduated from Georgetown University, and he has accepted a job at the Federal Reserve. And this young lady, Ruby Lee, is going to be working in Chicago at Ernst & Young after graduating from Notre Dame. So, and I will tell you, these other students have graduated from local state schools, from UMass, from UConn. They were just unbelievable. So when I said to these students, we need to promote some food in the cafeteria, they were immediately on. They jumped on the bandwagon right away. So what did we do? I said, well, we need to promote some carrots. And they said, well, why don't we do a taste test? And I said, okay, what do we need? They pretty much led the way, which was great, because for all of us, this was a brand new project, a brand new curriculum. So we decided to get blindfolds, and we had regular carrots and the rainbow carrots in these little boats. And students walked into the cafeteria and immediately came over to our table and they started tasting the carrots. It was amazing because, I mean, students that were normally very quiet were coming up to the table and, you know, they were all in. It was amazing. In addition to giving them the local vegetables, we also told them about the benefits. And a lot of the students were like, oh my God, I never knew that. So that was our very first experience with Farm to School. And my students kept saying, I hope we're going to do this again. And I said, well, we are. So there you go. We moved on to January and we decided to make, apple crisp with local apples from Charlton Orchard, which was about 15 minutes from the school. So the boys in the class decided to dress up as Johnny Appleseed. And as you can see, they were more than, they were very happy to go around and give out our samples. And from that point, they were just, again, ready every month. The girl that I told you who graduated from Notre Dame created all of these posters, and she is actually going to minor in graphic arts. And she told me that the reason she has decided to do that was because the Farm to School projects really allowed her to get creative. In February, we decided to talk a little bit of culture. We came up with quizzes, and the students came up, they took the quizzes, and they also tried the sample, which was our stir fry. And as you can see, some of our students were correcting the quizzes so that we knew who the winners were, and we had some gift cards. So it was really amazing. Every month we tried to offer something a little different. And I think you can see me in the background with a huge smile on my face because I couldn't believe how excited the students were. Every month just got better and better. In March, we were promoting the local dairy products. And the students said, well, let's invite the jazz band to play during lunch. And we also had grape juice, and the students were serving it. So it was kind of like not really a wine and cheese party. We called it a beverage and cheese party, but the music was playing. And again, the males dressed up really, really nice, and the girls had dresses on. And of course, we had this young lady in the front who found her cow costume, and she was pretty excited to wear it. Then in April, we decided to promote a baked potato bar. This is now a regular menu item in the cafeteria, and the students look forward to this. And it's pretty exciting to think back to when we were the ones who decided to serve each of the students. You can see that they had toppings down here. And again, every time it's on the menu, I now readily tell my classes, the reason it's on the menu is because of the Farm to School Committee. Finally, we talked about agricultural workers and the fact that a lot of these were immigrants that were working out in California. So even though I am a business teacher, we did a little bit of history. We did a little bit of arts. We did a little bit of music. We tried to bring in a lot of different disciplines while we were doing these different promotions. And now that I am, as we talked about, Dinah, retiring, I have been talking to a lot of the teachers in the school about getting involved with Farm to School, because it doesn't just have to be about promotion. Any department in a high school can get involved with the Farm to School Committee or the Farm to School program. So 2018, 2019, you can see that our list of participants has grown, and our posters now were not only created on the computer, but we had a student that was really creative as far as artistic. And so she would draw these by hand, and then we would get them printed out and we put them all over the school. This was our brand new mascot. He was actually a teacher at our school. And she actually drew his picture, and he was more than happy to become the new spokesman for Farm to School. More changes. We decided to have after-school cooking classes. We hand-dipped 500 caramel apples. And again, these were all apples from the local orchard. Again, big smiles on the faces. These kids were super excited. We made carrot cake from scratch, which was unbelievably difficult. The kids were taking the carrots and grating them, and we were using all of the materials in the cafeteria. You can see that Ellen's here helping all of the students. And again, students that were normally super quiet just dived right in. It was amazing to see them. chef hats. We even had some students that just kind of walked by and they said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Absolutely." So they just kind of joined in and helped for the day. Some of them continued to stay with us. So it was really an inclusive type of, experience for the students. When we decided to promote the kale, we decided to do a dip, and we also made pita chips. The kids decided that they wanted to make capes because they wanted to be super kale. So you can see that some of the students even found some felt, they cut out letters, and then they sewed them on the back. So once again, it wasn't only, again, the promotion, the business aspect of it. This is definitely a soft skill. Just working with everyone in a group and coming up with great ideas. So just on so many different levels, it was really, really super to be a part of. We also took a tour of Reds, which was out in Boston. The students saw the boats pulling in. We had to get all dolled up here with our gear. And we tried different, I believe she's eating an oyster.
Yeah.
But this was really cool because a lot of students had never been to Boston, but they also never saw what a seafood processing plant looked like. I never had seen one either. So this was a fantastic day. I'm going to let Ellen now talk to you where we have progressed to. Unfortunately, the pandemic put our farm to school within the school system. It kind of put us, back about a year and a half. But this year we came back strong. So I am going to let Ellen take over from this point.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
You're very welcome.
I know I've said this many times, but just before we move on, like looking at those events and, it's hard to transmit the energy that the students bring. And what I love about this approach that we had before the pandemic ruined everything was it wasn't, school lunch tends to be so nutrition focused and very serious, and it often forgets about the whole, the pleasure of eating and community and sharing a meal with your friends and having music, having a jazz band play while you're eating. So I'm really glad we took that approach. I think sometimes Marianne and I were like, what are we doing? Super kale capes? What are we doing? But when you see all the kids, literally we would have 100% participation from the students in the high school and most of the adults, so it's that excitement and just that like pleasure of eating that I think we miss a lot in school food. So I'm really glad that that's the approach that we took. So what we did, I'm not going to follow this list per se, although some of these goals we have achieved, at least 50%. Our local procurement program was already pretty strong. As Marianne said, what her students really helped with the marketing of what we were, already using in the cafeteria. I should say I was until yesterday the food service director at Webster Public Schools for 6 years, and I just moved over to Codman Academy in Dorchester today as the food service director. So out in Worcester County, we have the Worcester Regional Food Hub, which is like an aggregator, a really, really efficient way to buy local produce, which is definitely a barrier for school food. If you don't have like a food hub or an aggregator, it's a big job for a food service director to be sourcing from individual farms. So we're very fortunate to have that food hub. So that was already pretty strong. The local procurement was pretty strong. And with Marianne's students, we started kind of with marketing and events and more student involvement. And we felt that, where we weren't strong was outside of myself and Marianne. That was it. We were the farm to school committee as far as the adults in the district go, a food service director and a high school teacher. So we needed to really, form a stronger committee. And also we really didn't have any school gardens to speak of. So we decided to just go for a USDA farm to school planning grant, which we wrote and which we received in May of 2021. Which has really allowed us to take things to the next level and knock some things off this list here. So the biggest part of it is that it allowed us to hire a part-time farm to school coordinator. And so we have achieved the build of two, uh, a couple raised bed gardens at the middle school and a couple of raised bed gardens at the elementary school, which is huge. We just couldn't get there before. We have collected about a good 6 or 7 now consistent teachers, administrators on our farm to school planning group committee. We call it all kinds of things, including the math and science curriculum director and the Title I director. So that has really helped us just kind of, plant the seeds for more curriculum classroom connection with farm to school. So starting last year with the grant funded 3 fabulous field trips. The first one was a mobile farmers market. We chose the kindergarten grade, which is 125 kids, so it was fairly large, sponsored by the Regional Environmental Council in Worcester. So they take one of their mobile markets and they do a little program. It's adorable, where they build a market just low to the ground enough for kindergartners, and they have a little like a checklist sheet where they have to count what they're putting in their bag. And then on the other half of the program, they have a story about a garden. It was a really, really great event. We got a big, huge tent, so we made it into a big deal. And actually, Marianne's students, the high school students, came over to kind of help and volunteer, and also, aid the kids with checking off their lists and picking their produce. So that was field trip number 1. Field trip number 2, we took about 30 Marianne students to Community Harvest Farm in Grafton, which is, I think, 15 acres, and everything they grow is donated to food banks and various food rescue programs. And those 30 kids planted 2,600 onion plugs that day. So that was really fabulous, just to get kids outside and planting. And then the third field trip the grant funded was, we took the same group of students, plus or minus, out to Lowell to one of their school gardens there. Lowell has, of course, a great school garden and community garden program. And the coordinator there, Michaela, was terrific with the high school kids. So again, they cleaned up garden beds, they planted, they bagged leaves, they did, whatever they could do to help out at the garden in Lowell. So that's the farm to school coordinator, moving our school gardens forward, just, getting a broader base of support with our farm to school committee, and then just exposing kids to, just the variety of activities in agriculture, and, hopefully maybe getting some of them to start thinking about careers in some type of agriculture or that kind of thing. We really, the grant has really allowed us to do that. So I guess the funding piece really is important. It's impressive that we have Kara on here, who's a parent volunteer, who's giving her time to do this. So I think, she can appreciate, as we all can, that it's extra work. It's extra work for a teacher. It's extra work for a food service director. It's extra work for a custodian. So, I think we do it because we love it, but obviously the funding sources really help that, and support from Mass Farm to School also really helps those of us that are out there doing it. We had a lot of fun. Every time I see this slideshow, I remember how much fun we've had.
It was really fun. And the kids this year, even though they didn't really get to promote in the cafeteria, because the COVID restrictions are still there, they were still into planting when we went on the field trips. They were into helping these little kindergartners pick their fruits and vegetables from the mobile farmers market. Yep. They really enjoyed it. And again, I mean, I think it's very cool that Ellen and I partnered up, because being a business teacher, we kind of have a little bit of freedom about what we're going to teach and how we're going to teach it. So this really became a labor of love for Ellen and I. Wouldn't you agree? For Ellen and me. Yes. So.
And it's funny, because me coming from the food service director perspective. Besides Mary Ann, I think for me, the difficult part has been, how do you connect with teachers? Because I'm not a teacher. So how do you connect with their curriculum without asking them to do extra work? On the other side, I've heard a lot of teachers, and you even kind of referred to it, Dinah, say, how do I connect with food service? I don't really know how to do that. So it's like we're all out there, and it just takes some bringing together to get this kind of thing going.
It definitely takes a little creativity, but I really think that we can get a lot more teachers involved, because number one, culture is always a huge topic, right? Diversity and inclusivity and food injustice is now everywhere. Every time you open up the newspaper or turn on the TV, you hear about these things. So I think now is the time to get these teachers on board. So.
Yeah, I would agree, Mary Ann.
And the food service directors as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, looking at your photos, it just touches on that social emotional learning piece that's so essential in the community building in a school that students are just really needing. And it's a great way to integrate academic, areas, social emotional learning, healthy eating, fun. I just loved what you just shared. Thank you so much. I'm so inspired by I'm so inspired by your approach, both of your approach, to really allow the students to take it in the direction they want and to celebrate. And that brought that excitement. That we're just, obviously we're like, go for it, make those capes and and you created this really space for fun, which is just, everyone needs. And I think often, my experience as an educator, often in schools, there's not a lot of time to eat. It's rushed. Everyone's rushing and, inhaling their food, or kids are rushing because they want to get out for recess. And so they want to finish fast so they have some time. And you kind of created this really fun environment, like you were saying, Ellen, where students could actually share and eat and talk and listen to music and appreciate their food and learn about new foods and taste test, and really excellent. Thank you. The
administration was really behind us as well. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But yeah, the administration came down, the teachers came down, and they really, really loved it. Everything that Ellen made, it was, I don't know, it was always a little bit different, but and little samples, but just enough, for everybody, in seconds for most of the people that wanted it.
I
think
just
it's an Ellen question or an Ellen answer.
Well, I wanted to say, ironically, Kara, we have like no parent involvement. So everybody has their own strength. The first thing in listening to you is, I would really encourage you, like we just interviewed for my position in Webster, and we put an interview question for those candidates. What is your experience with farm to school? So it should, I'm sorry, it should not be an extra for a food service director. We have to make that a part of a food service director's job. And we can discuss compensation and blah, blah, blah. How's a food service director supposed to do that? But don't think that, don't take that mindset that you're asking for this little extra, because this is really an essential component of a food service director's job. So I don't know if you have any, any ability to
inform that process.
Insert that question when they're interviewing candidates, number one. But that's the first thing I was thinking when you started talking. It shouldn't be an extra,
it's like, if it comes from the ground up, then it's it can feel more organic and integrated.
I did want to say, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead, Mary Ann.
One of the individuals on our advisory committee owns a restaurant in town, and everything that they use is locally procured. It's called the Rose Room, and they are very, very successful. They are anxious to be more involved, And I just think it's awesome that you have a public school and you have a local restaurant that are working hand in hand. So I don't understand why a food service director wouldn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't the school want that to happen?
Yeah, for sure. And
So-
that's the thing is, like, as parents, I don't know, and I'm not part of the process. Like, we're not privy to the hiring process, and informing that. But that's why I say we're in a unique position, because we're in a position that could be really, really exciting for this type of work, given sort of the right hire. And so my goal, as as sort of representing the program to this new person, is to come in like early, and come in with this list of like pros that, like, this is just going to make it so much fun, and it's going to build the culture of the school, and it's going to get parents in the building. We're in elementary school, so I love the idea of like opportunities for student leadership and creativity, and I think it's like rethinking that. I love the examples that you had. I think for a younger crowd, like, how can we have some of the same opportunities? That's what I'm thinking about. But certainly, like, the social and emotional learning, that's really relevant. And we also have a school garden that's also funded by the PTO. So I think the dream is that, you have kids planting kale, you have kids harvesting kale from the school garden, and we donate all of our food, to food pantries and stuff. And then you also have children eating locally sourced kale in the cafeteria that month. So it's like, that's kind of the full circle dream, I think, for our school and our district. And it's just a matter of having that support, because certainly as parents, we can be enthusiastic, but we can't bake zucchini bread for 500 people. So yeah, I'm sort of trying to preview that conversation with this new director, and have my bullet points of really advocating for the program.
Were yours based around Harvest of the Month? Were you
In
using
the past?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, they were, but it wasn't, honestly, to be honest, it was not part of the menu. It was like a total made these sample cups that were taken up to the classrooms and served sometimes during like classroom lunch, or classroom snack time. So it wasn't, like I said, like integrated into the menu planning. So this was our former food services director coming sort of like early to process these ingredients and turn them into whatever they were going to be turned into, so generously and so cheerfully, which is a loss for the program. So I'm very aware of that, and want to make sure that, it all kind of rides on this new person, what we can do. So
Just something to keep in mind. There are a lot of conversations around, which I'm 100% support, about how do we offer some sort of incentive in the form of compensation for cafeteria workers to participate. Not the food service director.
Right,
the cafeteria workers, exactly,
totally,
who get, they absorb every year more and more and more and more.
absolutely.
They don't really get compensated for what they're absorbing.
We've totally touched on that.
These conversations are happening a lot, and I don't know if that's something that that the parent group could broach with, whether it's the building principal or superintendent, school committee, wherever you guys have your the best relationship, because that could be a pro. If you could go to your new food service director, trust me, she or he will be very happy if it's not her doing it and it's one of the hourly workers. Trust me.
Totally.
If you had that type of support from the, your administration, whatever, that would definitely be a pro. And that shows this new food service director that a parent group is important, and you're strong, group, but that you also have support from the administration.
Yeah. And just that we're aware of the ask, that we know what we're asking deserves sort of like recognition and compensation. So that's really interesting. Yeah. And I wonder if that can be written into a grant, or, just sort of like funded by the PTO as well. Um, yeah.
So we're trying to come up with more pros for you, right?
Yeah. So what I had written down was like healthy eating. It promotes healthy eating, which I think is obviously very clear. Social and emotional learning, just sort of that, like, it's not just about like learning about the ingredient, but you know, you're interacting with peers and you're having like, it's interdisciplinary.
Yes.
Opportunities for student leadership, and then culture building, like the fun piece and the pleasure of eating. Those were that was sort of what I took away from, in particular, that last section of the conversation.
Healthy
Yeah, if
eating,
you have anything to piggyback on that.
I would say healthy eating promotes academic achievement.
Ah, there you go. It does though.
You know, you can
Yeah.
tell, I'm a classroom teacher of 20 years
Right.
before basketball. You can tell when students have eaten
Yes.
healthy food versus, you know,
I mean, I can tell as a mom for
right.
sure.
So, you know, you could trickle that in, you know, and just, I think creating a whole school-wide community around, you know, in a really positive way.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And I mean, you saw that in this presentation, that
absolutely.
is really a plus. I mean, all of that leads to all of the things we're looking for in schools.
Definitely.
Do
Just
you
leads
have
to so
educators
much.
involved or with you, or is it just
It's-
parents?
It's mostly Harvest parents. So there are some teachers that have sort of attached more than others. And each month when we had the tasting, we would send out a blurb to all teachers that says like, this is the ingredient, sort of some teaching points, attachments, sometimes like a coloring sheet, honestly, whatever the resources that were made available to us. And then some prompt conversation questions for when the students were tasting, you know, like, have you ever had this before? What does it remind you of? And all things like that. So it's sort of hard to know, if you're not a fly on the wall, how deep did they go? You know, how many of those conversations were truly meaningful? But the other thing we do at our school, which I think helps bring it home for kids, is we have a Harvest of the Month display board, like a big bulletin board right when you walk into the school. So we were really heavy on photographs, taking pictures of the kids eating, you know, trying the foods, giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down, having their sticker on, and having the poster kind of in the middle each month. And those pictures and stuff were sourced from teachers who took them while it was happening. So the teachers are involved in the sense that they kind of have to be, the way our program was set up, because the tasting took place in the classroom. But it's not a like separate lesson plan or lesson time. So it was kind of whatever they were able to do or interested in doing right now. So maybe that's a good point though. Maybe looking in, you know, sort of digging a little bit deeper with some of those teachers that were very interested and responsive, and seeing if they want to come on board in a more sort of meaningful way.
Right. Sometimes it's tough to get teachers to change the way they teach.
Yeah.
But, you know, I guess that's my whole point, right? Is that this should really be about the teachers that are interested in doing it, about the teachers that are passionate about it.
Yeah.
Because we have tried to bring in other teachers and it hasn't worked, but we
Yeah.
have ended up with a nice core group of individuals who do want to do it. You know, they want to be involved, and that's really what you want to end up with. So
Right.
even though you may not have every teacher, if you have a good group that want to be involved, that may end up being all that you do need, you know, to get it off the ground.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, having some buy-in from the teacher side, I think would be really helpful. So maybe looking into those relationships a little bit more. Yeah.
But I think I do understand what you're saying. You want it to become, you know, food items that are served like on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah, or even
That
just
are part of the meal.
at lunchtime. You know, I think that it was a lot of work the way it was done in the past.
We really used hours. I mean, we did accommodate the kids to a certain extent, but I always had an eye towards, is this something that we could serve in the cafeteria? And
Mhm.
the baked potato bar is like the perfect example,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
some of them were desserts, and that's easy if you're going to do a dessert every once in a while. Some things that we're not going to do all the time, like smoothies, because they're just too labor intensive
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Right.
But if that could be a pro, that's a way that you're taste testing an item that may go on the menu that, you
Mm.
know, also you're getting, you know, your food service director doesn't have to now do a separate taste test because, you know, she's done one for a new menu item that she might want to introduce.
I didn't even know that that's something that occurs in cafeterias, taste tests. So
Anything can occur in
you
a
sort of like,
cafeteria.
yeah, but
It's
that, I
up
mean,
to
you're
us.
gauging sort of popularity of an item
Yeah, absolutely.
through, and then it could be repeated on the menu even.
A lot of people, as a matter of fact, are very disciplined about not, because especially if they're paying. I mean, in
Mhm.
our district, you know, everybody's free, but
Yeah.
especially if someone's paying, of course, kids are hesitant to try something they've never seen before.
Yeah.
So really, you know, sampling things out when it's free and it's just a little piece is a really good way to get kids
Yeah.
to then maybe try that when it shows up on the menu in a couple months, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. Yeah, I love that idea. Um,
We used to have a diversity week, and Ellen, you made several different
Yeah.
types of menu items during that week as well.
We did.
mm,
We had the I forget exactly, but it was like the Black Student Union. We had
Yes.
mhm.
something for Black History Month. That was really nice. We had a sort of very traditional, like Southern African American cuisine. We had well, in Webster we have a lot of Puerto Rican students, so we had
Mhm.
something around, like, you know, it was a Puerto Rican, the Puerto Rican Parade Day or some Puerto Rican holiday, which I don't exactly recall what it was. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's another great way, even if it's not maybe something that's going on the menu, potentially going on the menu,
Right.
using one of the Harvest of the Month crops to do a cultural
Yeah.
sample like that is another really good way to
I love
incorporate.
that.
Yeah. That is
Yeah,
really
that makes it,
There's another
that's
pro for your list.
totally, yeah, exactly. Totally interdisciplinary and also honoring potentially like a minority population
absolutely.
in the school, which would be amazing. Yeah.
There's so many directions that you can go in this, and I know that you're asking for 4 pros,
Yeah.
but again, it's uh, you know, we want everyone to feel included, and
Yeah.
so what better way than food?
For
You know,
sure. Yeah, I love
everyone,
that idea.
it's a common denominator for everybody. So
Yeah. That's
that's
great.
We do have an institute in the fall, and we take schools create teams. The team has to consist of someone from, you know, food service, someone from the
Uh-huh.
classroom, someone from the community, like a parent, and an administrator. And it can have other people on it, but you want to combine the cafeteria, classroom, and community. And we have a 2-day institute where we go to a beautiful farm, and you have time to create a vision for your school and a plan for the year. And then you get paired with a coach, and that coach supports you at your monthly meetings to roll out your plan. And then there's PD throughout the year of
Yeah.
all sorts of different PD. And then we celebrate, you know, your plan. And maybe, you know, you probably with a new food service can't do it for this fall, but think about it
Right.
for the year after.
That's so cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, and we have PD throughout the year for educators and community and food service directors, et cetera. So definitely,
Great.
we're a great resource to promote healthy foods.
They really are. I can vouch for that. We did the institute, ironically, before I met Mary Ann, the first year that I came to Webster, which one of the reasons that I mentioned that, Kara, is because the would have been the assistant superintendent for business and finance who and the business manager who initially interviewed me, because
Okay.
it always falls under the business office.
Yeah, of course.
They did ask about, I mean, one of their objectives at that time was more
Mhm.
scratch cooked food, less processed food, blah blah blah, and
Right.
school gardens. So they were already kind of ahead of the curve in
Yeah.
saying the type of person that we want, you know.
Right.
So you're on the leading edge. So, you know, sometimes that's like you're asking the questions that maybe the rest of your district isn't going to be
Yeah.
asking for a while, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
you are on the leading edge, and you should feel confident about saying that this is important for the next
Yeah.
service director, you know,
Yeah.
down the line.
Yes. It's so great to hear your perspective, like as I'm trying to think as a food services director. So
I don't have a lot of friends who are food service directors, but the ones I have, it's because we're similar. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like you just got to put it out there and go for what you believe in, and you're going to find your tribe out there.
Right.
doing the same
Exactly.
thing, you know.
Great. Thank you so much. It's been so valuable.
Thank you so much for coming.